In recent years, Albania has seen an incredible rise in interest from travelers around the world and our partners. Naturally, we took it upon ourselves to tackle the tough but thoroughly fascinating task of exploring this unique country, diving right into its fast-growing hotel scene, expanding service industry, and sometimes puzzling logistics. So, the annual road trip has become not just necessary, but strangely hard to resist. On board with me were our director Ivana, senior travel designer Amina, and junior travel designer Mia. A good mix. Our journey kicked off with a memorable 11-hour drive from Split to Tirana, a trip sprinkled generously with what you might call local character. Montenegro's roads, for example, could easily be mistaken for off-road trails you'd take a Land Rover down somewhere in Central Africa. With great music and even better company, even the chaos of this construction-laden route ended up being more entertaining than annoying. This border crossing definitely wins points for personality. Colorful, chaotic, and just a little bit surreal. Shkodër, a name that rolls off the tongue with the promise of rustic charm and perhaps a touch of the exotic. What we found? Well, let's just say the rustic charm was more aggressively rustic. Still, my love for authentic Balkans is so big that I love everything about Shkodër. Not enough to send clients, but enough to return one day to explore more. While the ladies were busy inspecting a few hotels, I was squeezing the car into a space that looked about 2 sizes too small and asking around for local tips on where to eat. The highest recommended place didn't quite live up to expectations, but at least the beer was cold enough to wash down the dust from the long journey south. By the time we reached the hotel, it was dark and we were running on fumes. I plugged in the camera, switched off my brain, and called it a night. Determined to make the most of every mile, I set off before sunrise for nearby Cape Rodon.
On this beautiful cape in Albania, just still a bit chilly. It's April 10th, but as you can see, there's frosting outside, so I didn't really dress too well for the dawn, but who cares? I gotta see this place. There's Adriatic Sea over there. I'll go check it out later. Now it's time to check this place. Find it first.
Cape Rodon is a peninsula that feels like a well-kept secret. Dramatic cliffs, pristine beaches, and lush greenery all rolled into one serene slice of paradise.
Closing in on the cape and fortress, the road becomes really ugly. This is quite difficult to drive. If you have a regular car, you'll go really, really slow around here. But should be arriving in about 5 minutes. And there's apparently a guard here already at 6:50. So I guess it's an overnight service. Trying to reach the parking place. You pay 300 lek for this. I don't know, that's like 30 euros, something like that. No less, it's 3 euros for this. Yes, that's fine. I'm slowly getting to the parking place, and then I'll see how to reach all these bunkers and the rest of the things. If you know one thing about Albania, is that they had a massive amount, tens of thousands of bunkers lined up around the coast, interior, border area. I'm freaking paranoid about being invaded by someone. Western powers, NATO, Yugoslavia, everyone's after them, according to the late Enver Hoxha, the lunatic communist leader. But this is one of the last remaining.
As I meandered along winding coastal paths, with few wrong turns, history came alive. Cold War-era bunkers stood like silent sentinels from a time when paranoia built in bulk. These quirky relics of communist-era defense are now abandoned and serve as cool hideouts for history lovers, graffiti artists, or members of a strange cult. Colorful graffiti and wild nature, perfect ingredients for a Republic of Cape Rodon, led by barefoot philosophers and part-time yoga instructors. Although its openings that lead further to this bunker system are sealed, and there isn't much to see today, the fantastic atmosphere still makes this place well worth visiting. But the ultimate goal was the magical Rodoni Castle, built in the 15th century by national hero Skanderbeg. The hike up to the fortress is lovely, but watch your step. This isn't exactly a red carpet entrance. The fortress, perched regally by the sea, served up panoramic views and that satisfying blend of salt air and centuries-old stone, and piles of modern-day garbage that will probably be cleaned by the tourist season. It was the kind of morning that makes you forget the hour, coffee, breakfast. But I don't eat breakfast anyways. I returned by 8 a.m. to inspect beautiful Elite Bay Resort, where we overnight and continued to see the famous sand beaches of Durrës. These long sandy beaches are something quite unique for Albania in this part of Europe. As our driver guide, Bjordi, needed to attend to some paperwork, we proceeded to inspect a large international Melia resort, a huge property that meets all the criteria of international all-inclusive resorts. Not the type that we usually request for our guests, but this is something worth visiting, as this is one of the best hotels in the country. Massive pool is a signature of this property. Next, we continued south, visiting few wineries. Albania recently became solid wine lover spot, and some of the wineries have seen serious investments in facilities, tasting rooms, and really offer international feel when visiting. One of the trip's cultural high points came at Apollonia, an archaeological site that absolutely deserves a visit. Located in the southern part of Albania, it's one of the country's best preserved ancient sites. In the 3rd century AD, an earthquake rerouted the Aoos River, silting up Apollonia's harbor and turning the area into a malaria-ridden swamp. As the mosquitoes moved in, the people moved out, and nearby Avlona, modern-day Vlora, took over. Since then, Apollonia has seen it all: rediscovery by European classicists, digs by Austrians and French, bombing in World War II, Cold War bunkers bulldozed through its grounds, and even vandalism during the pandemic. Yet somehow, it still impresses. The ancient Greek church is also a special place. We just passed through Vlora. Not exactly our cup of tea. The town feels a bit uninspiring at first glance, but there's clearly some serious development underway. Word on the street is that it might even land a direct flight connection with the US, thanks to a major investment reportedly tied to President Trump's son-in-law. Far more interesting was listening to our guide's stories of the terror of Albanian communist regime.
It was more socialism.
Yes.
More conservative socialism than communism.
Yeah.
Because you could travel.
Yes.
And so also you can study in different countries, even the foreign part. But in Albania, even to go from a city to other city,
You were not.
you needed permission.
Yeah.
Permission. If, for example, if you didn't tell your family, nobody knew where you are, so the spies will come to your house to check and to take every information where your son is, because they were afraid that maybe you escaped from Albania.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, so all your family will be like Gulag, you know Gulag?
Yeah, yeah.
So they could send your family.
Where is Gulag here?
Here, so were many camps in Albania.
Okay.
So if you visit, for example, Bunkar 2,
Yes.
you see a map of the camps that were built around Albania, in north, in south, in every let's say
Region.
wild region,
Yeah.
to drain the marsh, to dig for the minerals. Those were also let's say the most common jobs.
Where was the camp in the south?
In the south, for example, in Tepelena.
Can we see it now? Is there remains? No.
No, because what's happened after 1991, so the people that have suffered during the period, so they went there and so they destroyed the camp, because they couldn't see. More than 40 kids were
Killed there.
Not killed by the soldiers, but they passed away because the
Died, yeah.
temperature,
Yeah.
is different disease like this. But the only camp that still exists, and I hope that they'll turn it soon in the museum, is the Reci prison that is in Spaci prison. Spaci prison in the north of Albania, in the
Kruja region.
Mirdita.
Okay.
And so the intellectual people were prisoners in that prison. So the problem was, the prison is 900 meters above sea level, so it's totally surrounded by the mountains. The temperature in the winter arrived at minus 20 degrees, and they used to go every day to dig for the minerals in the mid years when the temperature was like plus 40 degrees. So a lot of people have died because like how you say pneumonia, the problems with the lungs.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle
Pneumonia.
Yes, pneumonia. Exactly, the temperature. And the problem was like that. To go from the town of Russian to the prison was 16 kilometers.
Every day.
Every day. So what's happened? The member of the families of the prisoners that they had to visit, the member of the family, so they had to go first from Tirana to Roshan city, and from Roshan city they had to walk for 16 kilometers to go to the prison. But nobody could help them to take them with a car, to send them to the prison, because they were enemy of the government. That's the problem. They had to do it by walking, even in the winter when the snow was like 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters. And so we have some documents that many of their parents, when they arrived there, like after they used to say, sorry, but we don't do meetings for anymore for today. Go back. Goodbye.
That's it.
This fascinating country suffered a great deal in the past, and it is great to see how they are catching up with the rest of the world. Driving along the coast, weaving through winding roads carved into steep, imposing mountains that plunge dramatically into the sea, Albania reveals its magic in full force. One of the most breathtaking stretches is the Logara Pass, where the road clings to the mountainside, high above the sea. Dotting the coastline below, massive resort developments are sprouting like mushrooms after rain. The scale of construction is staggering. You can't help but wonder, who exactly is going to staff all of these? With just 2.4 million people in the whole country, it's a bit of a mystery. But hey, perhaps they'll sort that out after the grand openings. Our final stop for the day was the village of Dhermi, Greek-founded and still home to a sizable Greek community. Tucked between rugged cliffs and the sparkling Ionian Sea, it's undeniably picturesque. The next morning, we rolled out towards Sarande, just passing by stunning Gjipe Canyon, just outside Dhermi. It's one of Albania's most jaw-dropping natural landmarks, where dramatic cliffs slice open the landscape and lead down to a beach so pristine, it almost feels fictional. From there, we made our way to the port of Palermo, once a hulking communist naval base, now slowly surrendering to the elements in one of the most picturesque corners of the coast. Rusting bunkers, concrete docks, and endless shades of turquoise. It felt like stumbling across the set of a forgotten Cold War thriller.
So the Navy base started and was built exactly from 1962. So that time Enver Hoxha decided to build it here because it's a strategic geographic location, if you see. So the enemy couldn't see where the submarines are going because it's hidden, if you see, from the Ionian Sea. And so with the help of the Russia, so they decided exactly here. The tunnel is 980 meters and they built it exactly here because they could connect the two sides of the hill. Here was the entrance and the exit was on the other side. But before to build that one, first they built many tunnels that connected inside because, as I told you, it's a big space inside of the hill. It's like a big bunker inside with 3-4 floors, and so were, if you see, secret tunnels are not open yet. But we interrupted diplomatic relation with Russia in 1961, and so the government had not enough money to continue to build this one. So what's happened? 7 years later, exactly 1968, we created new diplomatic relation with China. The Chinese brought here their military engineers, and so they invested, and so they continued construction this Navy base. And only the doors, one door is like 2 tons, made by concrete and steel, and for one hinges, hinges for the doors, it cost at the time $75,000 that time, but maybe today is like $300 or $400, and total this tunnel has cost the time like $400 million, that if you convert with the money today is like $1.6 billion.
A unique place for sure, though far more for its dreamy blues than for Mad Dictator's legacy. Just a little farther down the road, we made another stop, this time Fort Palermo, the original Venetian naval base from the 1500s. Not to be confused with the communist naval base we'd just explored. Perched dramatically on a peninsula, the fort looks majestic. A few sunburnt tourists shuffle about, snapping selfies and wondering aloud how this is still Albania. Fair enough, really. Down south towards Sarande, enjoying Bjordy's story about the infamous village of Lazaret, once dubbed the cannabis capital of Europe. At its peak, the village reportedly churned out 900 tons of marijuana a year, worth a jaw-dropping 4.5 billion euros, roughly half of Albania's entire GDP. Not bad for a sleepy mountain village, or more accurately, a stoned mountain village.
Went to the village and arrested everyone.
Yes, exactly in 2015, that year.
10 years
All
ago.
The special forces, not the common cops.
Okay.
They went there and they stopped every car, so they had guns, marijuana inside. And from 2015, so
It's peaceful.
it's
No
peaceful
agriculture
village.
there.
No, only salad tomatoes like this. No more marijuana.
Just a brief coffee stop at the Irish pub on the waterfront. Because why not?
Sarande.
The town is a bit of a chaotic sprawl these days, and definitely not a personal favorite. Still, it's worth a visit, if only to see how to completely transform a once picturesque fishing village into a concrete cautionary tale in under 2 decades. Next stop, Ksamil, the place that put Albania on the map with its Maldives-like colors and sugary sand. First, a proper lunch in a local restaurant.
Thank you. Oh, what is this saying?
Then, a walk in the spring sunshine, windy enough to keep you awake, but warm enough to make you forget it's still April. It's easy to see why this place has become pure social media gold. We made a quick detour to check out yet another beach resort, this one perched on a hill. Because when you think beach, you obviously think mountain. But hey, the views over Corfu were nothing short of spectacular, and I have found my favorite infinity pool on the planet. From there, we began our journey back north. I had already visited Butrint a few years ago, so we skipped the UNESCO-listed ruins this time around. Our focus was getting to Ksamil, one of the key reasons for this entire trip, a place that promised something truly special along the coast, and, frankly, had a lot to live up to. Ksamil is, without question, spectacular. Yes, a few finishing touches are still needed. We did arrive before the season officially kicked off. But even so, the grounds and villas are among the finest we've seen in the region. Sure, we could nitpick the service, we usually do, but those views and the scent of the Ionian Sea drifting through the air, pure magic.
Ksamil is definitely the best property in Albania, by far. I'm kind of getting lost here. This collection of villas, the restaurant, the beach, the privacy and beautiful settings just make it super, super unique. I'm gonna take a walk and try to get some drone shots.
I got some really cool early morning shots, while Amina braved the bone-chilling water for a morning swim. She's from the mountains after all, a tough little cookie with no fear of icy Ionian dips. Me? Let's just say my swimming season is still a good 2 months away. We enjoyed our breakfast al fresco, with the scent of orange blossoms in the air, a perfect farewell to the coast. Our trip back was shaping up to be a long one, and a quick stop at the fortress above Sarande didn't exactly help us make up time. But the road to Gjirokastër wasn't far, and it was well worth it. The hometown of Enver Hoxha, Albania's former dictator, might come with a heavy backstory, but today it stands as one of the prettiest towns in the country. With its steep, Oriental-style stone streets, charming old houses, and stalls filled with souvenirs and Albanian memorabilia, some of it unintentionally ironic, Gjirokastër somehow manages to feel both haunted and heartwarming. As foodies, we especially appreciated a spontaneous little moment in town, watching an elderly couple hand-roll Albanian cheeseburek right in front of us. It's not quite up there with the greasy perfection of a Bosnian one, but it's a local treat through and through. Next stop was another UNESCO gem, and probably my favorite Albanian town, Berat. But hunger was creeping in, so Bjordi steered us to his favorite spot within the ancient fortress. True to Balkan form, we had to battle a few cars, because naturally, everyone insists on parking as close to their table as physically possible. As always, Bjordi knew exactly where to lead us. Klea is a family-run place, named after the owner's daughter. His son runs the show now, a lively, friendly character who kept us entertained, even proudly showing off photos of himself with a former Croatian president. It was the kind of laid-back, personal experience that makes you instantly feel like a regular, even if you've only just sat down. While we waited for our food, Amina and Bjordi chatted about the Albanian language, a bit of a mystery to the rest of us, apart from the Turkish words left over from Ottoman days. Fascinating stuff, but definitely not something you master over lunch.
We have one letter that is a sound, so it's much
But the
easier.
pronunciation of this
Okay, say sladoled.
Sladoled.
Okay, good.
Sladoled, but of
Not
course I have to
sladoled.
improve.
Yes, yes, Kosovo.
Yes, Kosovo says it different.
For us, no.
Very good.
Da,
To prove the point. Prove the point. Fali,
Falem in there.
falem in there.
Yes. The way how to say thank you. Falem, as I told you, it's pray. There it's honor, so I pray for your honor. But also, you can say it in the short way that is Rafsh.
Rafsh.
It's very common in the...
I hear it everything on tape now.
Yes, with double R.
Lesson back from home.
Rafsh is like, I wish you a long life.
Okay.
The food was exceptional, a hearty mix of classic Albanian dishes, many influenced by neighbors and centuries of Ottoman rule. Dolmas, moussaka, stuffed eggplants, you name it. Everything was absolutely delicious, and we had such a good time at Klea that it was genuinely sad to leave. Safe to say, we'll be recommending it to all our partners.
You see, the yogurt is yellow. What is make it yellow is only when the yellow of the egg is fresh one. It is from the market. The yellow is like, not good yellow.
Yeah, like
It's a strong yellow.
Yes.
Sorry, what do you put inside the...
Also, garlic, onion, and of course cannabis.
Yeah, that's why it's so good. Thank you for it.
Garlic and onion.
Next, we headed down into the heart of Berat, making a few quick stops at some classic hotels to get a feel for what options we could suggest to future travelers.
Nice to meet you, Denise. Yes, the fence as well. Magdalena.
Berat is a true gem, and this was only my second all-too-brief visit. I really need to find time to spend a few proper days here and explore it the way it deserves. The road back toward Durrës to pick up our car stretched ahead, but at least the drive came with a soundtrack. Somewhere along the way, we discovered that Mia isn't just a talented travel designer. She's also got a serious voice and knows the set of Lana Jurčević by heart. Not necessarily a good thing.
Da. Ajmo sada svi.
Idemo svi! Kako ide svi, čekaj! I reci da će ovog puta biti
sve što želim ja. Kaži da si mene čekala i reci kako ovog puta nema roka trajanja. Prava ljubav nije potrošna, nije potrošna.
Durrës is usually the kind of city people drive straight through, eager to get to the beaches. But if you give it a moment, it does reveal a certain charm. The same can be said for its hotels. Plenty of character, but for many, definitely an acquired taste.
Idemo.
We finally picked up our car after dark and headed toward Tirana for an overnight stay. But not before another one of Bjordi's brilliant ideas. He took us to a winery hotel on the outskirts of the city, a true hidden gem. Honestly, if we could have canceled our hotel reservation in Tirana and stayed there instead, we would have. Next time, for sure. The next morning, we were eager to leave rainy Tirana's ever-worsening traffic as early as possible. Of course, the lovely chaos of Montenegrin roads still awaited us, with the small matter of getting Amina to the airport on time. Fingers crossed and full speed ahead. I felt a wave of nostalgia, remembering my first visit back in 2017, navigating the dark, sleepy streets of Tirana, which now felt like approaching a bustling metropolis. And good for Albanians, great people who deserve every bit of success coming their way.